I remember that day so clearly. I remember exactly where I was. And I think everyone does. I think everyone remembers that day. I think it stands out. I think it'll always stand out. I've not been the same since. And I don't think I'm going back.
It's like the world stopped. Don't think any of us have been the same ever since.
I can remember where I was sitting, and I can remember what I was wearing. It was my school uniform, but I can remember it.
It's like when Steve hit his chin and he went massive, you just remember. I mean, I was in Tesco's and got the call from Sam and dropped the basket and I ran.
None of us could carry on anymore. We're all so affected by it. Still are.
I just couldn't believe that somebody, so close to us could do something so horrible. And it just shook me to my core, and I don't think I've ever been able to forget it, to be honest.
I think I was in PE having my speedos checked, but I might be wrong.
I was at Champion Reading, actually. Funnily enough, Steve wasn't there, like he never was on Wednesdays. So do I remember? Yes, I remember pretty well.
Last day I smiled. I don't think anyone has been the same since then.
What news? Something happened to Matt Jones? Who even is Matt Jones? But if you're accusing me, and I guess it sounds like you are, I can tell you with absolute certainty I was playing Warhammer.
The year is 2006, and the students of Westcliff High School for Boys are filing in to start their day. All except for one. Matthew Jones. A polite and kind boy who was well liked by teachers and parents alike. A boy who'd become a victim of a senseless and horrendous crime. Matthew had taken the day off school to mourn the passing of his beloved cat, when he decided to check his MySpace. When he saw something that would change his life forever. A threat on his life. How did they know Matthew? Why did they want to kill him? And who is Stephen Birch?
I've just finished working a triple homicide into suicide and thought things couldn't get any worse. But then this landed on my lap. I've been seeing a therapist twice a week since, but I don't think I've fully recovered. I've dealt with some wrong ones in my line of work, but no one as evil as Stephen Birch. Before my investigation had even begun, Matthew came to me with a name. Suspect number 1, David Callan.
I mean, David Callan was the name on everyone's lips at the time, right? How the hell can you trust a guy who speaks with one accent one day and the next day he's from a different bloody part of the country? In my mind, that's not a person you can trust.
Oh, David McCallan. What a blast from the past, my laddie. Yeah, he was a total wrong'un.
Just something about him, didn't really fit in with everyone else. He was obsessed with Highlander and shortbread. Very strange.
I think Dave Callan is guilty, maybe not for this crime, but he's certainly a guilty man. I mean, he didn't feel like he was being himself, and it's always been on my mind. I've always thought about it, and I've always thought he was slightly different. So, is he guilty for this atrocity? No. Is he guilty in general? Yeah, you'd like to say on the odds of he's probably guilty of something.
Look, I had nothing to do with this. Like, Matt Jones and I weren't the best of friends. We didn't get along that well. Like, he was Nintendo Wii, I was PlayStation. We were never going to be friends, really. But I'd certainly never do something like that. I'd never threaten to kill him. Like,
he was shifty from day one. I remember he had this key, it was like a key to the city, but it was a key to the school, and he could open any door. I mean, that was actually pretty cool, but at the same time, someone with access to anywhere, He could have done anything with that key.
He comes in these fucking tight, golden little hot pants. Alright, bit of fun, bit weird, but you know, I'll accept it. And then he goes to the park and starts, you know, running up to these underage girls trying to like dance them. Dodgy, if you ask me. And that's when I first suspected he was a cunt.
I'd put fish food forcibly into Steve's mouth, but I would never threaten to keep, you know, Matt Jones. I mean, if I was going to kill him, I would have just done it. I wouldn't have made the threat. I would have just done it. So it wasn't me.
Alright, so you had a bit of a beef with Matt Jones. Hey look guys, and I'm keen. You've got to admit that common impression was pretty fucking funny though.
Everyone says that he's got a weird accent, and obviously that is true, but at school he was a bit of a dickhead. Sat next to him in geography and French, fucking insufferable. And I bumped into him in Edinburgh with his new accent, and he was actually lovely. So if anything, I like his new accent.
David Callan pulled off one of the best saves in Sunday League football ever. Could a guy like that be guilty of something like this? I don't think so. And for the record, I don't notice the accent.
Scottish people are some of the kindest, most considerate, just genuinely most lovely people out there. And they're also very funny people, you know, who are great at telling jokes. And what really surprises me is that Dave Callan is none of these things. It's like he's not really from Scotland. He's, you know, from Essex. He's definitely hiding something. He's guilty. Really guilty.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just gonna answer this. Hi, Dad. Yeah. No, yeah. I'm good. Look, I'm actually just in the middle of something at the moment. Can I call you back? Can I call you back when I'm done? Is it all right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep. All right. Love you. Right. Sorry, what were you saying?
Despite having the reputation for being a bit of a dick, David's parents were able to prove that he was having a bagpipe lesson at the time of the incident, and the police's most promising lead proved to be a dead end.
So, after the Callan lead led nowhere, our attention next turned to one James Birch. It seemed unlikely someone would be stupid enough to disguise half the name, but I guess Ted Bundy did it, so I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't follow it up. I couldn't help but feel he was hiding something.
I didn't have a quarrel with Matt Jones purely because I didn't really know him. I think I met him a couple of times at school, seemed like a good guy. He was in the form that I wanted to be in, where my mates were in 7E, 8E. I found it tough sometimes in 7C, just me and Alex Wallace cruising through life, but you never really felt like you fitted in that form.
I mean, James Birch is this name that kind of bobs around, you know, and yeah, at school, you could see that James was jealous of Matt. I mean, Matt had the natural good looks, didn't he? Matt was talented, he was a fast runner. Everything James wanted to be.
So yeah, I suppose I was jealous, and I'd like to have been in 7E, but not particularly against Matt Jones, no. No, I had no quarrel with him.
Well, I legitimately think is that not just James Birch?
You're saying James Birch is guilty?
Yes, James Birch is guilty because, for the following reasons.
My mum once told me never to trust a banker, and I never ever will.
You know, some people might say, oh, he's so nice, he's the nicest guy, he's salt of the earth, butter would not melt.
James Birch is a really good guy. He's the salt of the earth, butter would not melt.
He is one nasty sadistic bastard. Proper, okay? And he's always had it in for Matt. Ever since that time in year 8 where Matt took the last chip, sausage and beans from the hot counter, James weren't having it. And that was James's favourite meal. Every single day, chip, sausage, beans, chip, sausage, beans, chip, sausage, beans. soon as Matt took that nasty, sadistic bastard in him came out.
Consensus from the other students was that this Birch character was, at best, a very loose cannon. And he clearly had it in for Jones. So I pushed him. You know. I asked him why he singled out Matt Jones. Was it his good looks? Was it because he was in with all the cool kids from 7E?
I didn't choose him. This line of questioning, this isn't what I signed up for. I didn't choose him. I wasn't part of this. It's not me. No, it's definitely not me. And I'll be honest, I'm this close to walking out the interview because this is going to keep coming, isn't it?
And if James could get him out of the picture, yeah, there'd be no stopping him then, would there? So yeah, of course, there's that motive and that lingering question that could James Birch have done that? But then, you dig a little deeper, look at James Birch and, speaking to him for a day, he hasn't got the capacity to organise something this genius, this cruel or evil.
James Birch? No. He's a trustworthy guy.
No. James definitely is not the guy you're looking for. You can't have a nut allergy and that deformed chin. Like, there's got to be some sort of god, right? There's no way he's Stephen Birch.
The strange thing is, no matter how hard I pressed him, he refused to give me an alibi. That in itself was very suspicious.
I do have an alibi. I just don't want to share it, okay? I was at Sanju's party.
He was at Sanju's party that night. Pissed as I was, I had that moment of clarity where I caught him out of the corner of my eye. There he was, rolling around the floor, necking on with Matt King.
I heard he got off with Matt King at Sanjay's party.
So I asked him straight up, did you get off with Matt King at Sanjeev's party?
No. No.
The police eventually managed to track down Matt King, who was able to confirm that he did indeed get off with James at Sanjeev's party, clearing James of all charges and putting an old high school rumour to bed. But the case was now beginning to slip away from the police.
We were running out of ideas. After the Birch inquiry led nowhere, I started to go through the school's register and profiling everyone by the name of Stephen. Of the names we pulled, there was one who seemed an obvious suspect, someone who definitely seemed capable of doing something so thoughtless and hateful. Just from reading into this kid, it was clear he was a total bellend.
Sir, can you confirm whether or not you were logged onto MySpace on the day of the incident?
Me not type good on MySpace.
Sir, I'm over here.
But after speaking to Steve Hume for 30 seconds, it became clear that he was illiterate and would have been incapable of typing coherent sentences onto a computer. How he made it in the grammar school is beyond me.
So as the days went by and the case began to grow cold, the name Stephen Birch began to echo around the corridors of Westcliff High School for Boys, as kids wondered who he was, where he was hiding, and who would be his next victim. And very quickly, the rumours started to fly.
What do I know about Stephen Birch? Well, it's just rumours really, but apparently his penis is shaped like a roll-on deodorant.
What do I know about Stephen Birch? I know you'll never find out who he is. I'm not even sure that he's a real person. I think he's something that exists in the ether, within all of us.
Teacher, I thought. German snaps and physics. I thought that was it. I'm a goner. Alan Smith offered to walk me home to my bedroom door, but I think he was just being polite.
I heard the other day from I can't say who, but a pretty reliable source, that he's got the biggest, most deformed chin ever. And so apparently he walks around like this, because his chin is so deformed. I hope I never meet him.
I mean, I heard that Stephen Birch, before he sits down on any sofa or any chair, has to lick it to make sure it's to his taste. Yeah, pretty weird.
So my mate Don, he went to school with this person called Daniel. Now Daniel is married to Deborah, and now Deborah's cousin is David, and David's son, he works at a fish and chip shop, like scraping out all of the fat at the end of the day. Well, he told me that Stephen Birch actually invented COVID-19 just so he could stay at home and make really shit videos of him playing Crash Bandicoot. Anyway, whole thing went to pot because it's not 1997 and no one fucking cares.
The days turned into weeks, and it looked as though poor Matthew Jones would never see justice done. But just when all hope seemed lost, there was a major breakthrough. Mr. Robin Coker, an IT teacher at the school, took it upon himself to run Matthew's MySpace page through the tracking software he used to keep tabs on his ex-wife, and was able to trace Stephen Birch's comments back to an IP address in a nearby town.
The IP address was a real win for us. We knew the comment had been posted by someone who'd logged into MySpace from an internet cafe in Chelmsford, so we went back through the school register and looked for the students lame enough to use internet cafes in 2006, and quickly had 3 new suspects.
You know what? I didn't really know Toby, Chris and Jason that well. The only thing I did know is that they're from Chelmsford. It's a place I'd never visit. Absolute dive. Horrible place. And I'll be honest, there's not much to do in Chelmsford, so it doesn't surprise me they'd spend their time online. Exactly, I see why they might be implicated in this, but whether they had the cojones, that's another question.
So actually, those 3 are super tight, and they're actually Daft Punk. So it's just 3 of them in 2 costumes, just so like one of them can go on holiday and stuff. Plus Chris still works at the gardening centre on a Saturday, so he's not always available. But Toby is the real mastermind of the whole operation. Pretty arrogant about it, actually. It's left him quite big-headed, I'd say. Yeah.
It's like they say, he's innocent until proven innocent, unless he's guilty. Pretty sure that's the saying. On the night in question, I was at a strength and flexibility class. The ballet teacher was really top notch. She'll certainly vouch for me.
Personally, no, I don't think it was Toby. You know, too much of a good guy. He's got a good heart.
Toby Wingolledge is a saint, can I just say? Toby Wingolledge is a saint.
The one who stands out, and the one, if I even think of his name, if I see him, God, it sends shivers down my spine. Jason.
Well, the IP address was Chelmsford. What more do you need? That's Jason Kent.
I've literally never spoken to Matthew Jones. Frankly, I don't know why I'm a suspect in this case.
Toby's alibi had checked out, but Jason, he was less forthcoming with his.
No, I don't have an alibi, and I don't need one, because I know what I was doing. I was at home, probably playing Halo, or watching porn. Halo porn.
We checked Jason's computer and found out he had indeed been watching Halo porn all night. We had to confiscate his computer for police reasons, but the case was still open. We hadn't ruled out our 3rd suspect.
Chris Hatcher. Chris Hatcher. Have you met him? No, probably not, but Chris Hatcher is the scum of the earth. He's the scum of the earth. The things he's capable of, the things I've seen him do, could he have done this as well? Could he fuck?
Did I have any quarrel with Matt Jones? Well, yes and no. I mean, who didn't? He was your typical bully at school, really, Matt Jones. Absolute bastard of a man, truth be told. Matt the Maniac, they used to call him. Even the teachers were scared of him. Not me, though, obviously. Wait, he's not going to see this, is he? Do I have an alibi? Why are you asking? I don't like what you're insinuating at all here, to be quite honest with you, and I'm not going to say another word without my lawyer present. No, this is the end of the interview. Sorry.
Once again, the investigation had run dry, and the police had nothing to go on.
At that point, Chief Inspector was about to pull the plug. We'd exhausted all our options. On top of that, Jason Kent's computer had gone missing from the office. To be honest, I was expecting the case to be abandoned any day now, but that's when I got the call from Westcliff, another one of the teachers. They'd made the discovery that would turn this investigation on its head.
Well, I was closing up the IT suite when I realised the computer had been left on. I went over to it and it was open on an order confirmation for a very large Lego purchase. That's when I noticed the name on the order, Stephen Birch. I immediately checked who had last logged on to the computer and discovered it was none other than Steve Clark.
I don't know how we missed him. His name was Stephen, he lived in Chelmsford, and he was a specky nerd who loved computer games. We're all pretty confident. This is our guy.
Stephen's Lego fetish was known but unspoken. How do you expect someone like that to turn out, really?
No, I don't think it was Steve Clark. Steve is such a sound guy. He's really wise as well, such a wise guy. He once said to me, Josh, you must be the change that you want to see in this world.
It can't be Steve Clark. I used to spend a lot of time with him. He used to invite me around to watch him play Halo, to watch him play Batman, but he never once invited me around to watch him go on MySpace.
Steve Clark? God, yeah. How could I not think it was Steve Clark, number one. One of the first times we met, I went to stay around his house, sleeping, minding my own business. Next thing I know, I get punched straight in the face, blood covering everything. Yeah, ruined my clothes. Second, as kids do, I remember once we were wrestling around in the playground, just having a good laugh really, and yeah, things got a little heated, and he called me something that I don't think I've heard since. I certainly haven't heard before. It's one of the worst things I'd ever heard in my life, and I don't even wish it upon my worst enemy. He called me a shitfuck.
I went to Thorpe Park with Steve and Sam and Tom Walker, and Steve and Sam made my life miserable. Absolutely miserable. So I can absolutely see Steve would do that to someone as nice and as placid as Matt Jones.
Matt. Quasi. He slated Matt with every name under the sun.
And then what really sent him over the edge was when Matt completed Crash Bandicoot before Steve. That shattered him. And you'd see him sometimes, putting on his fake little ears and little fake tail, and he'll just be spinning around like a 6-year-old at a wedding on a sugar high. Nutter. Proper nutter.
The guy is a complete psychopath. He once decided to fake a break-in just to scare his housemate and to make sure she knew that he was boss.
He's been known to make up wild stories, and he's very good at impersonations. And I don't think there's any wilder story than that of Stephen Birch. Put 2 and 2 together, it has to be him.
The time I met him in real life, he was very, very well dressed with a pocket square, which is in itself quite sinister, and he does an excellent Bane voice, which he is able to sustain for a very long period of time. So, well dressed, good at voices.
I think Steve is guilty. You can't behave like you did in a food tech lesson like Steve did and not be guilty. You can't hang lost signs out of the window from the IT room and think that that's okay. You can't make the teacher cry as she probably did when she got home. She's probably still in counselling because of Steve and his actions.
Well, I heard, because I spoke to one of the coppers on the scene when it happened. Actually, apparently there was a single grape left at the scene of the crime. There's only one man I know who leaves grapes at the scenes of his crimes. Yeah, no, it's Steve Clark.
To this day, I'm certain Steve Clark was the mastermind behind that vicious threat on Matt Jones's life. However, just as I was about to arrest him, Jason Kent's laptop appeared. I don't know how it got into the trunk of my car, but long story short, I was fired. By the time the Met had got a replacement in and somebody attended the school, the entire computer system had been wiped. There was no hard evidence that could conclusively link Clark to being Stephen Birch. Even though they took my badge, I still regularly sit outside number 6 Brandon Close, watching him and his wife walking the dog, watching, waiting for him to slip up. And you know what? Stephen Clark, I'll always be watching. I don't care if it's your birthday. Do you know what? I'm finished with this interview. I'm done.
Despite several weeks of karate and the purchasing of a rape whistle, Matthew Jones decided not to return to Westcliff High School for boys. And although the lead detective was sure that Stephen Clark was the guilty party, no one was ever arrested for the crime. And the case has remained unsolved ever since. To this day, the students of WHSB still talk about the mysterious Stephen Birch and argue over who he really was.
So I think it was David McCallum, because he once threw a lolly in my hair, and I've just thought he's a complete prick ever since.
Like I said, I don't know if he is a real person, but if I had to put my money on someone, I'd pick James Birch. I mean, he's at least his brother, they got the same name. And James's jealousy of Matt was always obvious. Seems like it has to be him to me.
For nearly a decade, to be honest with you, this question has haunted me. It's not something I've been able to forget, it's not something I've been able to stop thinking about. And yeah, different people have flowed through my mind, Jason Kent, maybe. Steve Clark, I mean, yeah, he's up there. David Callan, potentially. But I've always had this inkling, this one little idea, that I know who it is. Bruce Clemens. A name you don't hear often, a name people don't talk about anymore. He disappeared in a puff of smoke. No one knows where to. I think he did it. He always hated Matt Jones. You could see it, the way he read his name in the register, the way he looked at him and scowled across the desk at him. There was a hatred there that goes beyond just hating someone. There was a hatred there that was just pure evil. Who do I think did it? Bruce Clemens.
There's always a mastermind behind a master plan, and for me, I know who that is. Mrs. Jevons.
Shoeman Cam. It's always the quiet ones who turn out to be sociopaths.
Well, I'm not quite sure how to say this, but James Gilks?
So I generally thought Stephen Birch was James Birch, and it was an in-joke.
So who's Stephen Birch? The fucking lot of them. James, Steve, Dave, Toby. Same person. Yeah, smart. Same person. Case shut. Bang him up. The lot of them.
There is no way on earth that Stephen Birch is one person. No way on earth. Let me put this to you. Stephen Birch is two people. And I've been doing my research into this, okay, for quite a while now. Stephen Birch could not be one person. Stephen Birch is two people. Stephen Birch. Oh, James Birch. No, not a chance. They're not that you think. But Birch Birch tree. Trees hatch, don't they? Trees hatch. You can see it's Hatch, Chris Hatcher. Stephen Birch is Steve Clark and Chris Hatcher, 100%. Always together, aren't they? Having their funny little games, telling their stories about how they grew up together in Danbury. Oh, tell that one again, Steve and Chris. Yeah, thank you very much, but we've heard it all before. They are Stephen Birch. You can mark my words on that.
Stephen Birch. I don't really know who that is. If I had to put money on it, I'd probably say Steve Clark. He was always a bit of a prick. Are we done here? Yeah, I think we're done here. Yeah. Which way to the toilet? Yeah, alright. Shit. Just breathe. Nearly 10 years I've kept this to myself. But they can't find out. They can never know I'm Stephen Birch.